little commentary for you and maybe a big no from one of your favorite senators. More to come. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of the Sunrise Surprise. And as always, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And of course, whether you are new around here or whether you are a regular around here, I really appreciate you for considering Black Spring with Autumn. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in. It seems like it's been a lifetime, but I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to do our usual housekeeping, and I'll be right back with we have just a little bit of commentary, and then I have just maybe a couple of nuggets for you, but we won't take up a lot of time. And I'll be right back. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Marcy T., Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn and the Sunrise Surprise. And you know what? It seems like it's been a lifetime since I've been on, but I'm back for all purposes intended here. However, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. And yeah, I didn't quite beat the sunrise. I beat the sunrise, but I didn't beat it on site. So you guys don't get to um, see me actually beat the sunrise. But you know what? I think I'm going to make it my business one day before I'm split out of here to make sure that I can actually catch the sunrise. I have fantastic view of sunrise. Maybe I can even do it somehow, try to get that in there. But of course, it won't be in studio. So maybe we'll try to snag an actual sunrise, and then we'll go into things. However, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I want to thank and welcome Derek C. Williams. Hi, Derek C. Williams. It's been a lifetime, and I have a couple of comments from him already. He's warming us up. He says, a new job site. for me. It's CA time, 7 to 3. Chill atmosphere. I still get to impact lives because I still directly with operating room. Great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Actually, I'm kind of a morning personality, and I've been that way for many years. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know, it's kind of nice to do the sunrise surprises because, you kind of get to see, you kind of get to see the world start up, as crazy as it is. You get to see it start up before everyone is on some in some ways that's a little bit relative, but I think you know what I'm saying. However, thank you so much and welcome back, Derek C. Williams. We appreciate it. Thank you for your support. And we support you in these times. We know everyone's dealing with, of course, some level of the, you know, AI or censorship, but you still have support around here, as well as Tyrant's Bane TDOA. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all you do to support the channel. And as you can see, I have a sunrise surprise on this one. And I just want to start out with a little bit of commentary because honestly, and I always do this, and I always say, sometimes I do the best. It's if I'm making things up as I go along, they tend to somehow it comes out a lot, a lot more smooth or however. But I just want to make a comment. I want to make some comments on. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with. There's been a buzzword, whether you're a buzz personality, a buzz figure that's been buzzing around quite a bit, dare I say, on social media, including YouTube, our mainframe around here at YouTube, as well as the Twitters and everything. And I mentioned yesterday I was going to do it, but I've been watching the series, the progression of there's this figure, Kwame Brown. Is it Kwame or Kwame Brown? But Kwame Brown has been making quite a bit of a buzz or stir on the internet, and especially it seems like, not just. I think he's hitting a lot of nails on the head, and that's kind of what I want to dig into that just a little bit. So, but I want to first thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Sunrise Surprise. All right. Thank you guys so much once again for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And of course, you see, I kind of keep threading that whole theme, the equity versus the equality. I keep showing that little scene because it's important for people to know that there is a difference, whether you need a visual, for the visual learners, maybe you need a visual definition, or maybe you could coast on the words. If both work for you, then great. But however, I want to talk a little bit about Mr. Brown, and I want to talk about the tone, the rhetoric, and I just want to talk about that just for a little bit. And of course, you guys may not. I don't want to misintroduce him. I don't want to do that because I don't necessarily follow mainstream or even sports so much. I don't necessarily do that. However, I will do my best to not butcher his, give a little bit on his background, just a little bit, not a whole lot. So if you want to dig into the rabbit hole, you can, but we'll do a little bit of commentary and I'll be right back. All right. So what I'm talking about here is, for those of you that may just be tuning in, this is just a little bit of commentary. We're talking a little bit about the Kwame Brown, or the Kwame Brown buzz that's going. So for those of you who may not be familiar, I do believe Mr. Brown, and of course you can prove me around here. I'm not a sports hack, an athletic hack, even though there are a couple of sports that I enjoy. I have enjoyed over the years, but I don't follow all sports and all games. But Mr. Brown, if I'm not mistaken, he was a former NBA draft pick. I do believe he was number 1 draft pick in his in his era. And I do believe it was about 18, 17, 18. I'm not sure what the standards are on that. However, he's been, I think he had maybe a 12-year run. And I think, he's been victim of course, the media. I mean, I think in sports, there's a bit of subjectivity. I find that arts and sports and many of these things in which people can critique, or I don't even know whether they call it constructive criticism anymore. Does anybody know what that is anymore? But it seems like to the talking heads or to the powers that be, that Mr. Brown apparently, or based on their standards, which I think is subjectivity, is he didn't live up to their standards, or he didn't live up to the hype of, the maybe a predecessor or somebody that came before him or after, that kind of a bit. Like I said, I am not a sports hack, and um, I don't necessarily follow the game so much. I mean, I grew up around. I had a brother, and shout out to Tyrants Payne, TDOA. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so he didn't apparently he didn't live up to the hype of of some of the others that were in his position. But there again, I say there's subjectivity there, and there's really no way to the media. There's no way to really end subjectivity, because why? They are controlling. They control narratives. No different. They're in the same vein, same ilk, so to speak. And yes, they're not liking him right now. Okay. And so what I want to say about that is, I think he was kind of beat around or smacked around for some time. And you go after people, you call them a bust. I think they referred to him as a bust. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I remember seeing pictures I remember seeing pictures of Kwame Brown. But I mean, there's so many, they're like, and I'm not going into relationships 101, they kind of come and go. And, dare I say, back in the day, so to speak, these athletes, there's tons of them, what is it, NBA, NFL, da 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 da. I mean, I grew up with a brother, and just a little bit, yeah, just a little bit, Zero the Infinite, just a little bit. But I don't claim to know everything about sports, and I'm not going to, and that's not I don't profess to know everything about sports, especially not NBA and not the NFL or any of those, what I would consider institutions. However, I do believe that Mr. Brown he's posted a series of, just casual conversations, casual dialogue. I think he's responded, but I think, and some people might say it's reaction. No, I don't think he's being reactionary at all. I think he's responding to the talking heads. He's responding to the mainstream media. He's responding to so many things. But I will also say that there's something about Mr. Brown's messages, and you want to know why? There's substance there. And, anytime there's substance in this day and age, dare I say, I don't want to sound like I'm super whatever, but too old school or whatever. I don't know. I don't care. But anytime there's substance or there's value, people want to come and get a little bite. They want some bites. They want a little piece of Mr. Brown. Everybody wants a piece of Mr. Brown, whether they admit it or not. And and you say, well, Autumn, why do you say that? Well, I say that because this is my metaphor. It's like meat and potatoes in there. When there's substance there, you're going to come back for it. For me, there's comfort in Mr. Brown's messages. Okay. Whether it's, I think he can be eloquent, and I think he can be brash. He can be, he can be raw. He can be snarl. He can be nasty. He can be all of these things. But I do think that there's authenticity there. I don't think he's being disingenuous. I really don't. But I'm going back. That was a digression. However, I think there's a familiarity and a consistency that keeps bringing you back. It's kind of like comfort food. We ask for comfort food by name. Why do we do that? Well, we do that because because we know there's a heartiness there. We also know that there's sustenance there. We do know that we know that we know there's a familiarity. There's a feeling there that we're going to get when we're getting something hearty and when there's some real substance there. We, as I say, we ask for it by name. And when I'm talking about comfort food, I'm talking about, whether it's meatloaf, whether it's pot roast, whether it's, dare I say, fried chicken without, somebody putting some label on me or whatever. You ask for these things by name because it's known, and it almost kind of wraps you up. It kind of will wrap you up, and it'll put you in a place. There's some, dare I say, dopaminergic content in there, and it kind of wraps you up. And I've said this before on this channel. I say people are starving for truth. So when people hear from somebody, like when somebody's talking or speaking to you, like a Mr. Kwame Brown is right now, oh yeah, people want it. They want, what else can you give me? Is, I think, the ear. People really want that. And like I said, there's some comfort in there. Dare I say, it's seasoned, it's simmered well. And I tell you, the leftovers are better, even better the next day. So that's the reason I think that, he's got, an appeal going on there. He's got nuance, he's got everything. And in fact, I think, if I'm not misquoted, I don't want to misquote Mr. Brown if he ends up watching this video, because he's watching people that are sharing the videos of whatnot. He's referring it to mama's cooking, is what he's referring to it as. And I think it's something that's missing in our lives. We're all missing some mama's cooking. I don't care where you're from or who you are, you might be missing a little bit of mama's cooking. And I think that's what's bringing a lot of people over to Mr. Brown's messages. Now, I will say, and this is just commentary right now, I'm going to get into a couple of things, so not to worry for those of you just coming in. Thank you so much. I want to say good morning to Zero the Infinite. Zero the Infinite, thank you so much. And also AZ Infidel, thank you so much for coming in and all you do to support the channel. So what I'm saying is that, okay, now we got a little bit of bun and lettuce. That's my bun and a little bit of lettuce there. So what I'm on about is that Mr. Brown is, for me, I'm going to give you a little bit more lettuce here. What he's saying to me, many of us, I don't know, of course, I know we have a diverse and a wide range of friends that visit us in the chat here, but I'm familiar with that kind of, with the type of conversation and what Mr. Brown is offering, because I grew up around, dare I say it, I grew up around men. I grew up around men that worked, 5-6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. I grew up around men that hunted. I grew up around men that fished. And I know that some of the best wisdom I've ever stumbled onto in my life, I stumbled onto, or I caught the tail end of it. I never told them, but I said, hey, they just walk by there, and it wasn't that they were, talking about women, or they weren't, degrading or misogynizing anybody, whatever, any of those terms, those terms that you get out of mainstream or whatnot. But that was some of the best wisdom that you could ever be privileged, or ever be, you could ever eavesdrop on. I mean, not to say that I was eavesdropping, but even if I would interrupt men in the family, it's like, wow, that was really deep. And it was always really firm. It was always firm conversations. And so I mean, I'm very familiar with hearing men talk, and I'm very familiar with, being around men that are not fragile, that are not woke, that are, that they can handle, like, as for me, I understand slang. I understand, what do you want to call it? Ebonics. I understand things that are even more broken than that. But I also understand just, when men talk, you pretty much were not really, you're not sitting around like women, and from my background, you don't typically sit around men. Like you weren't allowed, you go over there. Yeah, you go over there, or I'm talking right now, or either, that's like, my dad didn't even have to say, we're talking, grown men are talking. You don't have to tell me that, because I already know. because either your mom or somebody, in the family would teach you, the standard of just letting men. That to me, that's also like giving men the space. It was giving men the space to be men. You didn't sit around and eavesdrop. If you got one of those nuggets when you're walking by, or if you got a chance to bring your dad something or your uncle something, oh yeah, like I'm gonna get that last. Where do I enter here in this? Like I'm gonna wait right here by the door and figure out a good time to interrupt this because I want that little piece of that, Yeah, but I thought that was those were very inspiring times. So Mr. Brown reminds me of men, from back in the day, dare I say. And to me, those were, it was, I think there was some level of, you had a level of security when you would hear that kind of talk, and it wasn't even always profane. It wasn't always profane, but if they needed to drop some profanity, they were going to do it. And pretty much, if they need to do it, they're going to do it because why? Well, that's just what men do. That's their conversation. And, this is your place. See, this is the thing. Like, I think that we don't have like the discernment anymore. We're lacking discernment. And I think that's a part of Mr. Brown's message. We don't have the discernment anymore because it's like we've all been trained by like seals in many ways, not just men, but women too. Everyone has. And I think so many people, even in his messages, if you just go through these comments, you can see, or if you're in the chat room, um, you can just see that some people are literally they're listening for entertainment. They still put the entertainment above what he's actually saying. They're missing it. Like I said, some people had somebody say, if you miss class, you miss something. Well, to me, this is no different. You're going to miss something if you go in there if you're looking to be entertained, and there's nothing wrong with being entertained. I mean, I have my own little philosophy about entertaining, but I do think people should focus more on learning and creating and less on being entertained. But you've got people that are still, after everything he's saying, they still take their emotional equity out of it. That emotional equity is what they went in with, and they come out with the same thing. Either it's entertainment they're seeking, or they're dealing with their emotional equity instead of sweat equity. They're dealing with emotional equity is what they want to. They got to spread that around. If you're not emotional enough for us, we got to make you, emotional. We got to, we're going to borrow some emotionality for you and give it to you. But not only is he, he's got of course, he's got a lot of wisdom. And of course, I mean, I've heard some other people talk about, review what he said and all these things. But, I think it's the Southern, there's a lot of Southern, there's a lot of Southern, I think values in what he's saying. And that's just, well, we've never heard him before and da 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 da. Well, I just think just because somebody's not yapping and talking and, and mingling and letting all their convictions be heard doesn't mean that they don't have anything to say, or that you can't learn anything from somebody that's not, yapping with your favorite talking heads from the mainstream media. Yes, I remember that one, Zero the Infinite. He did says, "Are you not entertained?" And do you guys remember there was a line, it was Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe said that in because they're fighting in the Coliseum, and so you have Russell Crowe that's out there, double swording a bunch of guys, and he's putting them down like very quickly. And he asked the whole crowd, "Are you not entertained?" Because you could hear a pin drop. You could hear a pin drop. But I do think it's like a reset button. It's like once you hit the reset button and realize that somebody's there to change I don't like to use the word culture. Somebody's changing the culture. Somebody's changing the narrative. Somebody has the influence and the power to change the narrative. First, you said you got to give those people a chance to kind of recollect themselves because they're not used to what they're hearing. So what I'm saying is, I think some people, unfortunately, they're there for entertainment. And then I have issues with other institutions that, we're all focused. They've got everybody focused more on entertainment these days than on thinking or critical thinking. he made a lot of comments about that on the the critical thinking is really not allowed. And you've been and we've called this, I say this, dumb down, dumbing everybody down so that their response is, everybody look left or look right. They pretty much got everybody trained. And whether we're talking about the Black community or just not just the Black community, but the country as a whole, it doesn't take very long to figure out, on site, where people are. It does not. It doesn't. And I think some people are so, I think it's the chaos is actually, I think, starting to backfire on them, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for many people, however. But he talks about, of course, indoctrination. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. He calls it assimilation. And I think they've had Black people, for one, Black people have been assimilating for so long that their discernment is, I think, even more. And I'm not saying all Black people, but I'm saying a good majority, you know, they're so assimilated that their discernment is low. It's lower than ever. But then when I think about another overarching theme, I think is that I think Black people were a lot more, of course, they were less assimilated, but they were also in a different time. They weren't looking to the media for likes, they actually dug deeper into their influences, and they were a little bit more careful about and skeptical about what they watched or who they were influenced by. But right now, I think he's on so many things. He's on so many things. Some people might even say it's a curse. He's also speaking to the way that Black people in the Black community tear each other down on account of their fame or account of their higher ups or who they're controlled by. He talks about that. He's gotten into so many things, but I think it's a lot of people are going to miss what he's saying because they are still trained. It's like, I don't know, Mr. Brown, what it's going to take, but you're being, a lot of people hear you. Everything that you're saying is not falling on deaf ears. And many people they can't quite break. They can't quite break with media, and they can't quite, refocus. But I think he's going to do a lot of people, he's going to make them think again. What is it? Make America think again, or make Black America think again. I think he's going to do that. And I think a lot of people are watching him. So, that's on you guys. If you want to, of course, tune into that. I know he's brought up some other issues. He's spoken out a little bit politically. There's some things that have kind of come out. He mentioned Candace Owens, and of course, if you say that name, you can watch people's heads. You can watch people go ape. You can watch that. You can see that. Dealing with a little bit bad lighting here, but I'll just keep going here. So yeah. So the thing is that you're dealing with a lot of low hanging fruit, and the entertainment industry is feeding people low hanging fruit. And then you get somebody like Mr. Brown, and he's got that comfort food. And it's like, yeah, this, the aroma, the scent, the leftovers, we're going, those that still can pick up the scent, they're going to go back for it. And those have never smelled the scent, they're curious about it. But as I said at the opening of this, everybody's going to go by and watch some videos and see what they can extract, from that. They're going to get a little piece here and chew it up, decide whether they want it, or some of them will keep it, and some of them will, they'll spit it out and they'll keep going. But I do think, you're going to want to go back for that. You're going to want to go back for what he's calling mama's cooking. So yeah, but I think he's speaking to a lot of issues there. I don't know how long this will last. Let me read a couple comments. Zero to Infinite says he will give you that soul food. Yeah, it's definitely savory. It's definitely, there's a lot in that cooking, a lot. And unfortunately, like I said, to some people, they've never been around that, and they haven't had it. So when they see somebody like him, my God, he can't talk about that. He's not supposed to say that. And then it's also, it's almost like the Black community, there's this Me Too movement, but the Me Too movement is actually being served. They serve the Me Too movement against, the Black Hollywood or the males. They'll do anything to emasculate men. And he made a point. Well, they've made it easier and easier to just say anything. Oh, we can just, he's an all, the Black male right now is the all occasion, in the media. You're an all occasion, you're all occasion anemic. We can just stomp, kick, scream, shout, and we'll use we'll use the Black mainstream media to do it. So I can see his point. I think it's a very valid point there. And he's also calling out for people to, reclaim your family structure. He's saying so many things. And yeah, he got just a little bit political, but I think maybe people are ready to, as they say, maybe they're ready to have a conversation. I don't know, you know, but I think his numbers, YouTube is controlling. They don't like what he's saying. So if you listen to nothing else, if you don't remember anything else I say, if YouTube is censoring him, then he's got to be on about the right thing right about now. So there you go. I think that's about my just a little bit of my commentary on that. Yeah, so when you question the media, you question the politics of this country right now, you question the people running around in the streets with their fist up, and if you question any of that, whoa, he's got it coming from all directions right now. But maybe he'll keep going and he will see where it takes him. Zero to Infinite says, yeah, FYT. Yeah. So he says, Zero to Infinite says, the Black American male is the most influential in the world. Well, that's probably there's some arguability in there. Let's see. But yeah, I appreciate hearing from here. I appreciate hearing some talk. Can it be grimy? Yes. But I can, there's a fine line. If you've heard that kind of a talk before, when I say talk, if you heard that kind of talk before, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, like, it's familiar to me. It's familiar to a lot of people. It's more familiar to people than they want to admit, but they will. They'll get it. And so yeah, I think if he can get beyond the media hacks, he'll have much better. He'll have the greater good. He can serve the greater good. And yeah, he's got some ideas. I think, what is it, King Randall out of Albany, GA. But I'm not trying to link anybody together or any of that kind of a bit. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just saying that you have people in the Black community that are fed up with all the nonsense. And I think maybe his timing is everything in terms of Kwame Brown. I think it's very familiar. If you've been around men, then it's what can he say that can be offensive? What can he say? But even if you don't like something, you can hear it and still get the impact. You can still not miss, you can still not miss the jewels. Yeah, some people are still being, dare I say, the crabs in a barrel, crabs in a bucket personalities. I'm just saying, to me, a lot of this stuff is just old school jealousy and envy. It's jealousy, envy. But he even said, he was like, you think I could talk like this when I was in the NBA? I said, like, no, I couldn't talk like this. Because why? He was being controlled himself. You can't bite the hand that feeds you, so to speak, when you're under their thumb. So he's just basically exposing these people and exposing the colleges. He's exposing everybody. So I'm like, protect this man. Protect him at all costs. So yeah, and shout out to him, yeah. Okay, so I've been on about that for a little bit, but I thought it was relevant. And it seems like all of a sudden, in the post President Trump era, it's like everybody's like, okay, are you guys ready to deal with this stuff? You ready to deal with something now? Okay. I don't know, a lot of work to be done, a little late, but what can you do? All right. And shout out to Zero to Infinite, says he bought his freedom so he can say what he wants. Yeah, and then I didn't even go on. I didn't even talk about the Breakfast Club because I cannot. I'm not an absolute fan of any of that business. But he, let it fly. This is at this point, just let it fly and see where it takes you. The artist to be said, see where it takes you. Okay, all right, guys. So we're gonna go on here, and I started out. We're gonna move on to a liner that I can show to you on some level, but I'm going to do that very quickly here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And we have a little bit of a news alert. Apparently from the Epoch Times, I'm going to share what I have of this. And then what I'm going to do is I'll just give you guys the verbiage going on. All right. So this is Epoch Times. And we do have a link around here. All right. So I find this very interesting and, of course, relevant. All right. According to this, this is coming from Epoch Times. This is penned, of course, by Jack Phillips, or at least that's the pen name. Rand Paul says he will not get the mocktail. He says, quote, show me evidence. All right. All right. So I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to give you guys, read this for you guys just briefly here. All right. According to the Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, says that he won't get mocktailed against the CV-19, explaining that he already contracted the virus last year and has, quote, natural immunity, end quote. Paul, who is an ophthalmologist, said that he hasn't seen evidence proving the mocktail is more effective than having survived the CCP virus. So he won't get the mocktail. Quote, until, see, yeah, you're picking this up, quote, until they show me evidence that people who have already had the infection are dying in large numbers or being hospitalized or getting very sick. I just made my own personal decision that I'm not getting mocktailed because I've already had the disease and I have natural immunity, end quote, Paul. Paul, who appears to be the first senator to announce he won't get mocktailed, told WABC 770 AM on May 23rd, according to news reports. Paul has made similar remarks in the past when interviewed about mocktails. Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican of Wisconsin, who also recovered from the CV-19, suggested he wouldn't get the mocktail earlier this year. Paul tested positive for CV-19 in March 2020, becoming the first senator, to contract the virus. At the time, Paul said he didn't develop any notable symptoms and wasn't hospitalized. The senator also noted that the pressure from various institutions to get mocktail flies in the face of individual liberty. Quote, in a free country, you would think people would honor the idea that each individual would get to make a medical decision, that it wouldn't be a big brother coming to tell me what I have to do, end quote, Paul said in the interview, suggesting that the pressure campaign around mocktails could be an attempt to manufacture consent for other power grabs. Touche. Quote, are they also going to tell me I can't have a cheeseburger for lunch? Are they going to tell me that I have to eat carrots only and cut my calories? End quote, he added. Quote, all that would probably be good for me, but I don't think Big Brother ought to tell me to do it, end quote. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has recommended that people who recovered from the CCP virus should be mocktailed, arguing that health officials don't know how long natural immunity lasts. Quote, even if you have already recovered from the CV-19, it is possible, although rare, that you could be infected with the virus that causes CV-19 again, end quote, the CDC website says on its website. Paul comments, comes as some states and municipalities have attempted to place pressure on businesses to try to reopen by ascertaining whether their employees have been mocktailed. Last week, Oregon became the first state to require that individuals in workplaces, businesses, and houses of worship show proof of Mocktail Nation. Mocktail Nation, how do you like that? Before entering facilities without wearing masks. And in Santa Clara County, California health officials issue an order that stipulated businesses are now required to determine the Mocktail Nation status of employees. All right, guys. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Thank you so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So I thought that was interesting enough. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know this is an 11th hour sunrise surprise, but it's a surprise, right? Almost, maybe not 100% surprise, but Zero the Infinite. I am going to get into some of your comments. I don't want to leave them behind. Yeah, I don't want to leave them behind because they're like the soul food kinds of a bit. Got some comfort food comments coming out of Zero the Infinite. We don't want to let those go to waste. But we like them so much, we won't even hold them on. We won't even hold on to them for leftovers. We'll make sure we get them all in before the close of the stream. So thank you, Zero the Infinite, for your support, guys. And I will be right back. Thank you. Hey guys, it's Black Spring with Autumn here. And if you'd like to help us out with our AI and dissemination of the stream campaign, please hit that like, unlike, dare to throw caution to the wind by sharing, or just making sure that you're still subscribed to the channel. And I want to thank you for your ultimate and baseline level support here on Black Spring with Autumn. And we'll be right back right after this. Okay. It's going to come from the Washington Times. Okay. So we got, the wokety woke just keeps going. It keeps spinning and spinning and spinning, and who knows. Oops. Okay. All right, how about it now? It's just because of the lag. We should have called it the lag surprise, because nobody's surprised that I'm lagging around here. Okay. So yeah, but can you see, even in that article, he's foreshadowing some other things that we've talked about. We talk about it being Groundhog's Day around here, and that's real, because he talks about, so now what are they going to tell me what I can eat? You notice he mentions the cheeseburger. That's a common reference. We've heard other politicians talk about cheeseburgers, and that would be beef. That would be the carnivorous, appeal, that we human beings have. And he talked about, or should they be able to tell me that I should eat carrots? So that's another trajectory that we are seeing, that, and we've had that kind of rhetoric and propaganda coming out of Mr. Gates. He's talked about how people that are happier, they eat less meat, something, everything is, wonk bizarro land coming out of him. However, but like I said, everything that's coming forward, you always get a preview for it, and it may come from the most unlikely person, but you just have to pay attention to what they're saying. Not to mention, it's very convenient that Mr. Gates owns quite a bit of the farmland in this country. So I just find all of these things are we're on tap for the agenda 2030 and for the we forums, industrial revolutions, for the Great Reset. All of this is lining up just nicely. I talk about those conspiracy theorists and I say they're looking pretty good. They're looking really good over there. We've got about 4 for the conspiracy theorists and 0 for the snowflakes and for the whiners, I guess, for the utopiites, I guess. However, we'll keep going here. So I'm going to share a little bit of woke news with you, and then we're going to wrap up for this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. So yes, if you get lag or if you lack sound around here, it's because of the lag. And I think a lot of my issues are courtesy of my ISP. So we'll drop the AI charges. Drop the AI charges, if you will. So we're going to go now to that story, and then we'll get you out of here on your Tuesday. So it's still early in the day. And hope you guys are having a great day out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you guys, for those of you who have had an opportunity to hit that like button, you will have an opportunity, as always, to do so before the close of the stream. I really appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to give you some full scale on this because you wouldn't have it any other way. All right. So here we have a story here with a little bit of wokety woke juice. Woke trend seeps into red states' public schools. Our education system is being weaponized. All right. So this is from the Washington Times, and looks like our penman here is Valerie Richardson. Elite prep schools aren't the only institutions where teachers and students are being schooled in equity, diversity, and anti-racism. That's why I keep looping that little graphic that I have. Okay. While the battles over woke pedagogy at New York City's Brealey, Grace Church, and Dalton academies play out on the national stage, less noticed have been the growing numbers of public school districts jumping on the diversity, equity, and inclusion bandwagon in blue and red states alike. That includes Crimson, Oklahoma. Is anybody here from Oklahoma? Okies, any Okies in the chat? Last year, the Norman Public Schools hired its first full-time DEI director. According to documents obtained by the Parents Defending Education, it then spent $22,750 on equity consultants during the 2020-2021 academic year, even as the district lost students during the CV-19 pandemic. Nicole Neely, president and founder of the newly formed parents advocacy group, said the Norman School District's social justice tilt is, quote, part of a larger trend, end quote, in K through 12 education. Or, quote, what's interesting to me is that so many people have a misimpression that this is a California or Manhattan issue, and this shows that this is in red states. This is in conservative areas, end quote, said Ms. Neely. Quote, this is a public school district, but it's in places where I think a lot of community members aren't even aware that this is in their backyard, end quote. The group formed in March while parents were feuding with district officials over the growing influence of anti-racism and equity doctrine, sometimes called critical race theory. Critics contend that critical race theory is a little more than repackaged Marxism, but schools say they are simply attempting to confront systemic racism and create a welcoming environment for all. Okay, so, this is, maybe I'll put this in your guys's chat here. Quote, this is a serious problem that parents are realizing across the country, and quote, Elizabeth L. Schultz, a former Fairfax County school board member, said Thursday on Fox News, quote, the pandemic has revealed that our education system is being weaponized by school boards, end quote. Even as they struggle to reopen for in-person learning, school districts are moving briskly to set up offices of diversity, equity, and inclusion, hire directors, bring in consultants for trainings, and undergo, quote, anti-racism audits, end quote. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little bit addy right here. I've never been on this site here. Let me see if I can regroup here. Okay, a little bit addy. Maybe I clicked on something there, but sorry about that. Or looks like they've given me I've got an allotment here. Maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, I will tell you that this is also a bit of a trend. They kind of bring you in, kind of bait and switch you in, and then like, oh, boom, you got to do our subscription right now. That's what's happening in our print world. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that article out there for you. To me, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. But there's certain places in the country where you think that this infection has not, power and influence, spreads like wildfire, right? Kind of like a virus, right? So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in on this 11th hour sunrise surprise. And I'm sure I will be back. Like I said, this week, I don't know, it was a little bizarre. Had some things going on around the house, so I'm a little bit behind. However, I thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And like I said, if you haven't had a chance to hit the like button on today's stream, you still have time. You still have time. But I don't have anything to bribe you with. I don't have any nice calorie packs or anything to share with you. I don't have any of that business. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I may even come back later today, but just kind of wanted to get this in. And we're going to be right back. And I'm going to say salute to everybody on your Tuesday. And I appreciate it. I'll try to come up with a smile where available. I will. And I will be right back. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for all the support on the channel. Yeah, so if you're, as earlier we were talking about Mr. Brown, and yeah, it's like, okay, so you're, the most free people are the most attacked people, right? And does that make sense? Does that jive with anybody? Like, okay, and I agree. Zero to Infinite says that you buy your freedom, and then you can do whatever you want. Or they just come up with another smoke and mirrors campaign and enslave everybody all over again. How about that? All right, we'll be right back, guys. This show is brought to you in part by our sponsors. Whether you're interested in health, culture, politics, scripture, automobiles, or music, please check out Derek C. Williams, Killer Whale Channels, The Definition of Anarchy, Marcy T, Joseph Francis Burton, Paralysis by Analysis, Chrysler Imperial H, Little Miss Goth, AZ Infidel, Cold War Jesus, Anthony Scioli, and Let the Truth Be Told. We'll be right back right after this. Guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this segment of Black Spring with Autumn, and I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come in on the 11th hour sunrise surprise. And let's go back to the top of things. All right, Derek C. Williams, it's nice to see you. It's been a lifetime since we've had you around. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. As well as Tyrant's Bane, TDOA, thank you so much for all that you do to support the channel around here. And I apologize for the lighting. I'm not sure. Make it just a smidge better. You can see me. I'm still here. Okay. So we have Zero the Infinite, who's here. Easy Infidel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It looks like I had somebody over on Twitch. So, yes, somebody came over on Twitch. I really appreciate you guys so much for tuning in on this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And let me get these comments before I take off here. So, these comments came from yours truly, Zero the Infinite. And Zero the Infinite says, Kwame is too real for the internet. I know a lot of people like him. If you can't handle honest truth, and you won't like those type of people. Yeah, it's just, yeah, he talks about people just kind of folding up like paper bags in the rain because they can't handle much. Let's see, I got that one. So also he says that Kwame is definitely smarter than he lets on, and people think that just because he's a country boy that can't be intelligent, but that comes from discrimination of Southerners. Here's the thing, but that's also a very elite mindset. You know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I've heard people even all as far north as Canada mocking people in the South, and they don't know anything about the South. It's always the people that know the least about a culture or a tradition, dare I say culture. That's not my favorite word, but it's always those people that are not familiar with what they don't really have a real grasp of what they're talking about. It's all very, to me, it's all very mythological, and it's always some kind of subjectivity that they have nothing to draw on. They have no, their knowledge is based on stereotypes, or because somebody told, oh, well, you're not supposed to listen to those Southerners or listen to that twang, or, you can't learn anything from those Southerners. So and I think those are our institutions are the same. Most people that will mock whether they're conservative or just a down home person that's not really speaking so much of the Queen's English, or they're a little bit flat in their pitch, they tend to mock them very quickly. And to me, that seems to be more of an elite. I mean, I had somebody I had a teacher of mine that was just absolutely mocking people in some of the southern states. I'm like, my gosh, you're from Canada. What do you know? What do you really know about, everything you say is stereotypically, finessed. It's what you're saying is not real. You're subscribing to stereotypes, but you're teaching at Juilliard and you're teaching at Curtis Institute, but you have so much disdain for a place that you've never been to or even visited, or you don't have any perspective to draw on, but you're disparaging people for maybe it's based on the accent, or you know what I mean? It's a broad brush, but to me, it's more of an elite, because they think somehow that holding 500 degrees or that elite anointing puts them up there above everyone else. And you really have to be careful about that. I always talk about the colleges. I do. And it's just, there's a fine line. There's that discernment I'm talking about. You lose discernment. It's like the more degrees people get, it's just like their discernment, they just go full on elite. And the elite, to me, consider themselves way up there, even if it's not their domain of competence. They still consider themselves higher than you. I mean, I'm surprised they even listen to their own mechanics. I wonder how that works out. I was almost an elite one time myself, but I had to figure out how to break it. But then it's counterintuitive to me to behave like an elite. So I would recommend, think about things a little bit, or, as you said, what did they say? Check yourself, let me put this down here. And Zero the Infinite says, my elders talking exactly like him, so I'm used to the style. He is proud heritage of the Gulag. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Yichi. I'm not familiar with that. And if he knows that about himself, then that's fantastic. And that's part of his identity. Great. But like I said, it's very much, in that case, you probably have a lot more of that. Zero the Infinite says, from what I heard, he kept quiet for 20 years while they came at him. So during that time, he built himself up. So now that he works for himself, he doesn't answer to anyone. Yeah, of course they're going to mock, and sneer and mock, and sneering, jeering, riding, dechiding, you name it, they're going to do it. But there again, that's also an elite. And see, that's another reason why I try not to idolize. I think it's a danger. It's dangerous to idolize people, because just because somebody is skilled or talented in some way doesn't mean that I need to subscribe to them, that I drop my moral compass, or I don't have a moral compass because I have to like them. I cannot disagree with them. I can't like them and disagree with them at the same time. But I think that's also a part of the indoctrination. We can't have balance anymore, because we've been trained to, to follow the crowds. Even if you see, people have been following the crowd so long, they're lost right now. That's pretty much it. Yeah, to me, it's an elite culture that puts people. And you see the same things that come out of politicians' mouth. Like, what is it? Hillary Clinton referred to people that voted for Mr. T that first round in 2016. She referred to those people as baskets of deplorable. What she wanted to say was, she really wanted to say hillbillies, rednecks, and white trash, trailer trash. That's what she wanted to say. That is an elite. That's an elite shellac. That whole disdain or whatever, disparaging people, that are maybe from the country or had some country upbringing. To me, that is an elite disparaging comment. The colleges are a part of that too. Yeah. Discernment, though, it's, I don't know. There's like you're. I guess you can't be humble, or you can't learn from anybody unless if you have like 1 degree. You get that 1 degree, or you get a second degree. Oh, I have a cousin now. She's really frustrated. She's upset about a lot of things, but then she's, well, I have a degree, and I'm like, but see, to me, this is you. Check yourself. Just check yourself, please. You're holding this thing up, but you're upset because people that have less than that have had success. And I'm just thinking, well, sometimes you got to grab, you maybe need to re-anchor yourself a little bit and realize that wasn't the end all be all in the beginning, right? That you're more than that. It took something within you to get that, but you need to do a little. You might go another step further. You might do something else so you can achieve something else. That's not the only thing that you can do in this life. That's not your last and latest and greatest achievement. And see, that's also, it kind of brings me back into the, musicianship and things like that. The minute you think you've made it is when you're done. You're going to flounder. You're going to die, like, for the lack of a better word. You're done. You're dying because you're not growing anymore. And I think elites they always talk about the glass ceiling, but they're the ones that are enclosed. They're the ones that are stifled or stunted by that glass ceiling, because they think that these little pieces of paper, it's going to float them into some kind of, they're immortal, or they're invincible because they have that. And I think she's got, even in her despair, you still holding up this elite stuff, and it's also tearing you down at the same time. It's a phenomenon. I'm not gonna lie, it's a conundrum. I gotta tell you, you can find a little bit of elitism anywhere. I think elitism has also destroyed a lot of people, a lot of communities, including the Black community. I think, it has. That's a virus too, in my mind. So, break fast if you can. Get out while you can. And Zero to Infinite says elitism is more of a problem than racism. As a matter of fact, racism is a symptom of elitism. See there. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. I think we're meeting more than in the middle right there. We're not splitting hairs anymore. All right, guys. I really appreciate it. That was a long digression on the comments there. But as always, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this segment of Black Spring with Autumn. And yeah, check out that article from the Washington Times for your Woke It update from Black Spring with Autumn. I really appreciate it. And I may have something. I have something that's pretty good, but it's over on Patreon from the AFLDS. That's the American Frontline Doctors. They are on a tour, and they're actually suing. I think they are suing. They are suing some level on account of the mocktails. I think for the children. I think ages 12 to 15, something like that. But check it out. We're available. If you're on Patreon, you have that here. It's getting to the point where it's not just a selling point. It's not just infomercial. It's reality. There's certain things that you cannot share over here without getting ding pinged or struck or whatever. All right, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in with all the lighting, the bad lighting, and even the lag. Thanks so much, guys. All right, guys, have a great Tuesday. That is, and I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I've got to scoot, but it's possible I will be back. All right, guys. I'll see you guys around, and take care.